This week in Jamaica Now, literacy crisis at Pembroke Hall High. Most 7th graders unable to read. Supreme Court blocks St. James Parish authorities from removing PNP campaign signs. Holness says his allegiance to Jamaica cannot be questioned. And Kelsey Farragon, the 9-year-old schoolgirl brutally raped and murdered, laid to rest. I'm Neville Graham, and this is Jamaica Now. More than 70% of the roughly 220 grade 7 students at Pembroke Hall High in St. Andrew are unable to read or are doing so at the grade 3 level. Principal Reverend Claude Ellis, who made the revelation, says many are even struggling to recognize letters of the alphabet. He says some students are suspected of having special education needs but remain unassessed due to long wait times at the government's primary diagnostic center, the MicroCare Center. He also blames lack of parental cooperation. Only 2 trained special needs teachers serve the school's 1,200 students, with teachers struggling to manage complex behavioral and learning challenges. The principal says some students have shown improvement after the school reduced class sizes, focused on literacy, and implemented coaching. Nationwide, the Education Ministry employs only 184 special education teachers for nearly 6,800 students. Jamaica Teachers Association President Dr. Mark Smith and Chairman of the group's Special Education Committee, Jacqueline Hendricks, say urgent resources are needed, including assessments and psychologists. And Education Minister Dr. Dana Morris Dixon says the government is implementing various strategies to tackle literacy concerns in schools. She was responding to a question on the Pembroke Hall High situation at this week's post-cabinet news briefing on Wednesday.
I saw that report on Pembroke Hall High School, and it's always sad when you see those reports. And it is the reason why we are focused on literacy. And you would have heard me announce that come September, from grade 1 to grade 3, we are timetabling reading. It had been taken off of the timetable some time ago, and we are putting it back on the timetable because we cannot afford for our children to leave primary school not literate. So that's our policy position. Now, we have instances like this where students are entering into high school that are not literate, and that's why we've put in some new programs. We call it the tactical approach, where we're focused on literacy in those schools that are challenged. And so our reading specialists are working with them. We're doing more interventions, and come September, for all of those schools, because we've identified the schools that have the issues, all of those schools, the children will now get breakfast, because we realize also that for those schools where we're having the challenges, the students tend to come from challenging circumstances. And so we have to be intervening on multiple fronts in order to address it. And so it's happening there, it's happening in other schools, but I'm happy that, at least in this instant, I can say that the ministry is already working with the schools to ensure that we do something about this literacy problem. And it is really a problem that we have to address in Jamaica, and that's been our goal, and it's been articulated. No child should leave primary school that's not literate.
The funeral of 9-year-old Kelsey Farragon, who was murdered at her home on May 9, drew an emotional outpouring on Monday at the Spanish Town Seventh-day Adventist Church. Clad in pink, her favorite color, mourners, including government ministers, paid tribute to the St. John's primary student remembered for her intelligence and warmth. Her peers delivered moving performances in song and poetry, demanding justice for Jamaica's vulnerable children. Principal Louise Clark described Kelsey as a problem solver and one of the brightest young stars. Gender Minister Olivia Grange urged Jamaicans to unite against child abuse, saying Kelsey's death must stir national awakening. In honor of her memory, the St. Catherine Chamber of Commerce has announced a scholarship in her name. Kelsey was raped and strangled at her home on May 9. Her brother found her body in a barrel. 3 days later, 30-year-old Giovanni Ellis, who was named a person of interest, was shot dead by the police in an alleged confrontation in Clarendon. The Jamaica Constabulary Force has apologized to 26-year-old construction worker Orlando Gray, who was wrongly listed as wanted. Gray was taken into custody on May 29 and held until June 2 after turning himself in when he saw his photo on a JCF wanted poster. He said officers threatened him during the process, calling him a killer. Despite being released, his image remained on the JCF social media pages until June 11. The force issued its apology on June 13, more than a week after his release and days after TVJ News brought the issue to public attention. The statement confirmed the real suspect had the same name but offered no details on how the mistake occurred, who was held accountable, or what specifically changed following the review. Gray, who feared being targeted even after release, said the ordeal left him afraid to leave his home. The JCF says it has reviewed its internal processes but did not state what specifically has been addressed. The Supreme Court Monday slapped an injunction on the St. James Municipal Corporation, stopping it from tearing down campaign signs for opposition PNP hopefuls Dr. Andre Houghton, Janice Allen, and Alan Bernard. Senior puisne judge Lorna Shelley Williams also granted the trio permission to seek a judicial review of the corporation's April decision to ban political posters. While the court granted the corporation permission to appeal, it refused to put its decision on hold pending the appeal. Attorney Maurice McCurdy, who represents the caretakers, was not surprised by the decision. The dispute ignited after Montego Bay Mayor and Chairman of the corporation, Richard Vernon, pushed through a motion on April 9, barring signage ahead of the general election, expected by September. The PNP representatives argued that under campaign period rules, political ads need no prior approval. They also noted that the campaign period under the law started on March 7. The Electoral Commission of Jamaica, acting as the political ombudsman, demanded the legal basis for the removals, but Vernon's lawyer, Rose Bennett Cooper, said they could see no basis for that request and that the mayor was acting under the planning law. Constitutional expert Dr. Lloyd Barnett says the stance is legally unsound because temporary election posters are exempted and any restriction must follow due process. The Jamaica Labour Party has completed its candidate slate for the upcoming general election, naming Senators Audrey Marks and Delana Seabright as standard bearers for Manchester North Eastern and St. Andrew North Central, respectively. Marks, a former Jamaican ambassador to the United States, will replace veteran MP Audley Shaw, while Seabright steps in for long-serving MP Carl Samuda. JLP General Secretary Dr. Horace Chang confirmed the selections, which follow months of internal jockeying in both seats. Marks, now a minister without portfolio, said she was persuaded by the party executive and feels connected to the constituency, pledging to focus on youth and economic development. She was selected ahead of Councillor Omar Miller, who was endorsed by Shaw as his replacement. Seabright, a state minister in tourism, expressed gratitude for the support from constituents and the confidence in the party's internal selection process. His selection follows a contentious process to replace Samuda. Meanwhile, rhetoric in the campaign for the upcoming national polls is heating up. PNP President Mark Golding on Wednesday said the opposition party will maintain pressure until Dennis Chung's appointment as Chief Technical Director of the Financial Investigations Division, FID, is reversed. Addressing supporters at a protest in Old Harbour Square on Wednesday, Golding accused the Holness administration of undermining good governance and appointing someone unfit for the FID role. He argued that Chung lacks law enforcement experience and has shown bias in matters linked to a probe into the Prime Minister's finances. Golding declared the issue one of national importance and said well-thinking Jamaicans must resist what he described as an aberration in governance.
Jamaica has been racked by a government that has been in office for nearly 10 years, and they have continually preached what it takes to govern the country in accordance with principles. The most recent of these things is, of course, the attempt to subvert the true process of the Financial Investigations Division and its true purpose by appointing to head it as a Chief Technical Director somebody who A, is not qualified for the position as he has no law enforcement experience, no experience in investigating financial crimes, which is the very heart of the purpose of that agency, and secondly, somebody who has compromised himself by showing clear and manifest bias in the most important investigation that FID is tasked to deliver on, which is the investigation of the allegations of illicit enrichment and corruption by the Prime Minister of Jamaica himself. This is why we have to take a strong stance against it, and we're very glad that we're not alone in this stance, and that well-thinking Jamaicans and organizations, including non-political bodies, have seen fit to stand up and shout out against this absolute aberration in the governance of the country. And why does it matter, people? Why does it matter, comrades? Because we need all the resources that we can muster to make life better for the people of Jamaica.
And JLP leader and Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness argued at a party meeting in St. Catherine on Sunday that his allegiance to Jamaica is beyond question. He was speaking at the constituency conference for St. Catherine South Central, which is represented by the JLP's Dr. Andrew Wheatley. Holness hails from the parish.
So because my journey started here with you, I can identify with you, and you can identify with me. So you know that I am genuine. My quest to continue to lead the country comes from a genuine place that cannot be questioned. My loyalty to this country cannot be questioned. My commitment, dedication cannot be questioned. My allegiance to this country cannot be questioned. I have chosen to give my life in service to Jamaica. It was not a second thought. It was not to put on my resume. It is because I love, care, and respect the people of this country.
One of the JLP's talking points for the campaign is the allegiance of PNP leader Mark Golding, who last year said he renounced his British citizenship. Golding was born in Jamaica to a British father. He has faced criticism for not directly acknowledging his status, which is allowed under the Constitution. Controversy is swirling over a decision by government lawmakers who voted on Wednesday to recommend the removal of the Auditor General as a commissioner of the Integrity Commission. If approved by Parliament, it would end a decades-old tradition of Auditors General serving on oversight bodies that examine the income and asset declarations of parliamentarians. The current Auditor General is Pamela Monroe Ellis. The move, which was proposed by JLP backbencher Everett Warmington, came during a Joint Select Committee review of the Integrity Commission Act and was opposed by two opposition lawmakers. Civil society groups, including the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, JAMP, and the National Integrity Action, NIA, have slammed the decision, warning it could undermine accountability and democratic principles. JAMP says the reasons given are unsupported, while NIA calls it a troubling step towards tyranny. Some government MPs argue that Monroe Ellis's presence creates a conflict of interest and blocks the Auditor General from conducting various audits of the IC. The Solicitor General rejected claims that the Auditor General's membership breaches the Constitution. Opposition MP Julian Robinson insists that no conflict exists as independent firms audit the Commission. In a statement Friday, the Jamaica Labour Party accused the PNP of hypocrisy, noting that the party, under former leader Dr. Peter Phillips, supported the removal of the Auditor General. The Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, says 3 men who were killed in a confrontation with the police in St. Ann on Wednesday night were going to commit a murder. The police have not given any further details in relation to the alleged murder plot. Acting on information, a police team intercepted a Toyota Probox motorcar occupied by 4 men in Back Street, St. Ann. They say a confrontation ensued between the occupants of the vehicle and the police, resulting in a shootout. When the shooting subsided, 3 of the men were seen with gunshot wounds. They were taken to hospital where they were pronounced dead. A 4th man, who was also in the vehicle, reportedly escaped and is currently being sought by the police. The police say an AK-47 assault rifle and a 9mm pistol were seized during the incident. The police disclosed that one of the deceased men has been identified as 38-year-old Dickie Bonnick of Runaway Bay, St. Ann. The police say Bonnick was on bail in relation to the October 2020 murder of 38-year-old Patrick Spence. He was jointly charged with Everett Duncan for Spence's murder. Duncan, who confessed to the murder and implicated Bonnick, was subsequently killed. Bonnick appeared in court on May 30 in relation to the murder of Everett Duncan. However, the matter was postponed until January 8 next year. The police say the conditions of Bonnick's bail prohibited him from being in the parish of St. Ann, mandated him not to interfere with witnesses, and required him to report to the Maypen police station in Clarendon 3 times per week. The identities of the 2 other men are currently being ascertained. The Reggae Boys have been drawn in Group B for the final round of CONCACAF World Cup qualifiers, where they'll face Curaçao, Trinidad and Tobago, and Bermuda. Only the group winner will secure automatic qualification for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. The football competition will be jointly hosted by the United States, Mexico, and Canada. The runner-up will head to the Intercontinental Playoffs for one last shot at qualifying. The decisive round of matches will take place during the FIFA International windows in September, October, and November later this year. Jamaica beat Guatemala on Tuesday to advance to this latest round. And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. Follow us on X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram at Jamaica Gleaner, and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. Like this video on our YouTube page, turn on your notification, and subscribe today. I'm Neville Graham.